Let's keep on working down the home page and making sure that our styles adapt to the screen size of our user. So we'll move on to the promo products block and add our responsive design. Alright, so here we are at the localhost 8000 with our Strappy and Gatsby servers running. And I'll go ahead and I like to just start shrinking down the page and waiting for things to start breaking, basically. So we can see right about here, our text is now starting to overlap with our carousel. So that means we need to start making some changes. One of the easiest things I think we could change here, it looks like we have our tabs, so we're still at the large breakpoint above the medium breakpoint. Let's go ahead and just reduce the padding here on the sides of this, because I don't think there needs to be that much space here on the large screen size. I think that looks just fine, the extra large rather. But here, where it starts to get a little more cramped, I think we could just reduce that and make this a little cleaner. So let's go ahead and open up the code editor, and this time we'll go to our promotional products.js. And we have our padding currently set on the main container class here. You see we've got our padding with 30 rem on the bottom, and then 10, or on the top rather, and then 10 on the right, 10 on the bottom, and 10 on the left. So let's go ahead and we'll set our theme.breakpoints.down for large, since we're still at the large breakpoint. And let's go ahead and set a padding of 20 rem, and then 2 rem, 2 rem, and 2 rem. So that'll reduce the bottom padding, or the top padding rather, and then reduce the padding on all the other sides as well. So if we go ahead and save that, flip back on over, see now that looks much more appropriate for the screen size. And the best part about this is it looks perfect all the way until once we jump here, now we're at our medium breakpoint. So we can continue applying other styles to make sure that that text doesn't start to overlap. You always want to make sure to check your breakpoints right above where they break. Make sure it looks good, and then right below where they break. Make sure it looks good. And so once you get below a certain breakpoint, then you can start adding other styles to make sure that it continues to work as you shrink down. So one of the common patterns, once we hit the medium breakpoint, and we can safely assume that we're probably on a mobile device or close to it, that we should go ahead and start, instead of having things primarily set out from left to right in a row direction, we should go ahead and stack this from top to bottom for a column direction, which makes more sense when you're scrolling vertically on a mobile device. So we can go ahead here and we can make sure that up at the top, we're going to need to import our use media query from @material-ui/core/use media query. Then we can come down and under our const of classes and under our state, let's create a const of matches medium equal to the use media query called, receiving our theme, and we'll check the theme.breakpoints.down for medium. Then we can go ahead, and this is a common pattern here. So down here on our main container, wrapping the whole thing, let's go ahead and add the direction prop, where previously we were just in the default direction of row, but now at matches medium, so if we're at or below the medium breakpoint, let's now switch to a column layout, otherwise the row layout that we had before. So if I go ahead and save that and flip back on over, you see that now it's going to be stacked top to bottom. We're just going to need to add some more styles to fix that up. So one of the first things we could easily do is set this text here, instead of being right aligned that we had before, let's go ahead and center align that up. So we've set this previously on our description container class with the text align of right. Now let's alter that style for our theme.breakpoints.down for medium, and go ahead and set text align equal to center. So we can save that, flip on over, and you see the Explorer is now centered up with the description. Now we want our carousel here to be a bit closer to our text. We don't want it spaced out like that. So that's actually coming from our justify prop. So we have a justify of space between, because that's what we wanted when it was in a direction of row. But now that we're in a direction of column, that's spacing them out too much vertically. So we'll go ahead and again, we'll wrap that in braces to make this a JavaScript statement. And we'll check matches MD. And now we'll go ahead and change it from space between to space around. So if we go ahead and save that and flip back on over, you see that now they're much closer together with the space distributed around them. Now our carousel here is still being pushed far too much to the right. And that's actually because we have set up here a margin left on the carousel container. That margin left of 20 rem is what's pushing us over here, which worked before, but now that we're in this vertical layout, let's go ahead and at the theme.breakpoints.down for medium that we've been working on, let's go ahead and set the margin left to just 0. Go ahead and clear that out. So if I save and flip back on over, you'll see that now it's perfectly centered up. Now, one thing to note here, if I go ahead and inspect the element on this to check out what's going on and make sure I shrink down to our medium breakpoint, if I actually check out the element here for our carousel, so let's see here, here's the element totally wrapping it. So here's our block underneath, but then here, it looks like it's saying that this actually has a dimension of 0, 0. Okay, and I think that's just because of how the carousel is set up from the library that we installed to use it. But because it's not saying that it has any dimensions, that's actually not aligning these correctly based on our justify space around. All right, so what we can do is our carousel container that we have that currently says it has 0 dimensions inside of our breakpoints.down for medium. Let's give it a height of 30 rem equal to the height of the image. So we can go ahead and save that. And now it does detect that it has a height, and so it correctly puts them in the middle. So this looks pretty good now. I like how it's centered up. So I'll close out of that. And we can start shrinking it down once again. Shrinking it down, shrinking it down. And here, it's gonna start to get pretty close to the edges here. So I think we should go ahead, this looks a little big for this smaller screen size now. So just like we did for our animation, let's go ahead and shrink this carousel down. So now we're gonna be at the small breakpoint. So we can go ahead and on our carousel image class, let's go ahead and use our theme.breakpoints.down for small. And we can go ahead and set a new height of 25 rem and a new width of 20 rem. So if we save that and flip back on over, see that now we've got just nicely a bit smaller carousel. But now if you notice our carousel background images, the ones behind our selected one, they're a little bit too far out. They're not exactly more centered up the way that we had them before. See here, it's about centered or so. But here when we shrink them down, now it's covering mostly just the far corner of it. So we've set that up with our space class, I believe. Yep, our space class here with the margin of 15 rem. So let's go ahead and we actually set the margin here with 0 top and bottom and then 15 rem and then 10 bottom. But we could actually change that to the long shorthand of 0 for the top and then 15 rem for the right and then 10 rem for the bottom from our margin bottom here, and then 15 for the left as well. And we can get rid of that extra margin bottom and then add our theme. Actually, I'll show you if we get rid of that and save that. It's the exact same because we just consolidated that. So now we can add our theme.breakpoints.down for small, remember. And let's go ahead and copy that. And we'll change the margin now to just be 10 on all other sides. So we'll reduce that. And if we save and flip back on over, you see that now those were moved much more appropriately behind the selected image. All right, so that's looking good. Let's go ahead, keep shrinking it down all the way to our smallest window size here in Chrome. and it still looks almost good, except we're just right up against the edges here with our background images. So let's go ahead and shrink it down once again for our extra small screen size. So let's go ahead and for our carousel image class, underneath our small breakpoint, let's give it the theme.breakpoints.down for extra small. And we'll now give this a height of 20 rem and a width of just 15 rem. So let's go ahead and save that, flip back on over, and I think that is much more appropriately sized.